In today's adventure, we are going to be working on and replacing the exhaust on the old pickup truck. All right, here's the backstory. So when I bought the truck used right before the pandemic, all the parts were perfectly functional and it was a beautiful truck with only 30,000 miles on it. I then proceeded to take off a lot of perfectly good parts and replace them with expensive aftermarket parts. Why? I think it's because I'm a glutton for punishment, or I wanted to waste a bunch of money and time and decrease my fuel economy. It doesn't make any logical sense, but what the heck, I did it. I was bored, and so here we are. The problem was that when Ford had its original exhaust system, or from the catalytic converter back, it just didn't sound like the truck looks. So I wanted a more aggressive rumble. I did a lot of internet research and I decided to settle on a rather inexpensive exhaust system, mainly because it sounded cool and it looked cool, or at least it did in my head. So what I got was an MBRP system, catback system. So basically it's from the catalytic converter back. It's got a muffler and a couple of pipes. And what I really liked about it is that it has black tips to match the dark color of the vehicle. It had two tips, which I thought was neat, but it only has one pipe coming out the back of the exhaust. So it's just for show and really doesn't do anything other than look cool. But the last thing was that it actually exits out in front of the tire, which again looks cool. There's no practical reason to have it this way. One of the drawbacks to this is the original exhaust system. The hangers are not designed to have the torsional force associated with an exhaust coming out before the tire. It's just not how it was designed, and you're using the original hangers. So it never really hung all that great. I had to do a little modifying, and we'll probably see that later when I'm underneath the truck, to get this to work and line up the way that I wanted it to. Also, there's not a whole lot of space here between my aftermarket running boards. Again, a modification I put on because I lifted the truck so high I was having difficulty getting in and out of the thing. So between the running boards and these oversized 35-inch tires, not a whole lot of room here for these exhaust tips to come out of the back of the truck. Additionally, the spacing between the body and the exhaust was very limited based on the exhaust system as it came from MBRP. So I was able to get it tweaked just right so it fit and it worked. However, now we are 4 years later, and I was heading into work and I heard this clunking sound, and I identified it as the exhaust banging up against the frame of the truck. Why was that? I didn't know until I crawled underneath there, and I found that as the pipe exits the exhaust, it's actually separated. And while I was down there, I was really disappointed to see within 4 years, or about 60,000 miles, 70,000 miles, the exhaust system is very rotted, very rusted, and it's failing. So instead of trying to take it off and repair it, which I was happy to think about doing, just welding it back together, there's so much rust down there that if I do that, it's probably just going to fail, or I'm going to start breaking stuff as I take it apart, which we'll try later today and see what happens. I didn't want to keep running down the road with my exhaust hitting the body of the truck, so I'm fortunate enough to have some sort of welding skill. So I crawled underneath the truck, polished what I could, welded what I could just to get that that out pipe from the exhaust to stop rattling around temporarily. And in the meantime, I bought a new exhaust. Now, understanding that this one only lasted 4 years, I was a little disappointed with that. I'm not making any judgment calls on MBRP or otherwise. I'm just telling you the facts of what I experienced over the Wisconsin winters that have done terrible things to this. So I went with a different system, and we went with the Roush system that's made for this truck. So we're going to switch today the MBRP that after 4 years is pretty well rotted out, and you can be the judge yourself when we crawl underneath the vehicle and take a look. We're going to rip that out, and then we're going to put a brand new Roush in. Now, some credit towards MBRP. It looked really cool and it sounded really cool, and I'll show you right here, right before we start taking this thing apart. So we can do a little before and after comparison. I don't know how it's going to go because I haven't put a Roush system on ever. So join me in the adventure, and let's rip one out and put a new one in. Well, one positive feature about having a jacked up truck is that I don't need to lift it up to work on the exhaust, which is kind of nice. So just wanted to give you a little tour of what we're currently working with here, starting at the catalytic converter, working our way back. We're at the flange that then connects to our MBRP. There we go. Exhaust system. Now you can see from the flange, yeah, there's some discoloration and rust, but I would call that normal for Wisconsin. And then it starts to really get crusty around all the welded seams here, especially back here. And you can see the weld that I had to put back on it to put it back together. But this is where it separated the pipe that went into the back side of the exhaust. And all these clamps here are really, really rusty, crusty. You can see everywhere here that there is weld spotting has just started crumbling away. And this is what I'm talking about here with the hangers and the torsional force that this thing feels from the pipes trying to come out the side. It's just not how the exhaust system was designed. And over here, especially where there was an additional hanger that had to be added, if you can see, I had to put zip ties in because it kept hopping off the hanger and hanging down, which is not cool. So you can see all the crusty rusty all over this thing, which is unfortunate. I would have hoped that it would have lasted longer, but between Wisconsin and probably mild steel, just wasn't able to hold up. So let's open up a box from Roush and see what a new exhaust system looks like. Pre-soaked everything in penetrating oil. Hopefully that'll help me a little bit as I start to loosen up all these bolts, or attempt to loosen them. A lot of crusty on this, so guess we will see. Yeah, this is going to take a bit. Well, you might not have been able to tell, but my intention was to take apart all of the bolts holding the muffler in place and then take it apart piece by piece. But that plan quickly crumbled, pun intended, with the amount of rust that was on each one of those bolts. The bolt heads just sheared right off. I did pre-soak everything in freeing agent in hopes that something would turn, but that wasn't the case. So simple enough. It's a short exhaust system, and I was able to just disconnect the front flange from the catalytic converter, and the whole thing just slid right out. So got fortunate there, I guess. So let's see how this new Roush rig goes in. All right, first thing it says it wants is for us to loosen up this rear suspension bolt. I'm not going to ask questions, just going to blindly follow the instructions. So I'm sure all answers will be revealed in time. Just need to acquire all the tools necessary, I guess. What are we working with here? A 15/16 for the nut side and a 7/8 for the bolt side. These videos are never really designed to be how-to manuals, but sometimes I guess it is necessary. So it says we don't have to take it off. We just have to get it loose and provide a little space. I believe it's for the hanger.
It's not taking off, it says just getting to the gap. Well, that seems to be moving pretty well.
I don't know if I would put a small child on this project. I have to give it some level of business here. But let's just do as they say. There's a little gap in here. Oh. That goes to the front side of the exhaust pretty quick, so I guess we'll just get this little space back here and move along. Next up, back to the front of the vehicle. I must admit this flange seems to be looking like a much stronger grade than the last one. Just fortunate these bolts are in fairly good condition. Minus the washer. These have seen better days. I think I'll go get new washers. Alright, it says loosely. I can do loosely. Oh, now that I'm tightening this, I can see that I don't know if these are aftermarket bolts from the MBRP system or what the deal is, but they're not fully threaded. They're only half threaded, and they're going to be threaded too short to secure this pipe. So got a couple of options, I guess. I can either pop these out and find different bolts for them, or I can get out my tap and die kit and just finish threading these. So one of those two things, I guess, will have to happen. Again, disappointment, delay of game, going backwards. Well, I went through my bolt supply, and the only ones that I had are too short. So I could do a tap and die on this and extend the threads, but that flange it has locking nuts on the back side of it welded on, so it's already focus here, gummed up the end of these threads. So not a huge deal. I'm gonna run into town anyhow because I need to stop by the library, so I'll just run and see if I can find some nice stainless steel bolts or grade 8 because feeling bougie with this brand new system, and we'll just delay the install by about an hour or so. So we will return. All right, back from the hardware store in the library. Picked up a free book. Can't go wrong with that. And a treasure map. As cool as that sounds. Picked up some stainless steel hardware. I think that'll be a nice addition to this modification. And the right size bolts would be helpful. Don't have to modify them. Just put them in. Loosely, I believe they wanted. All my mechanic friends are laughing right now about the tools that I'm using, but slow and steady wins the race, I think. And next it says install the over the axle muffler section. Can do that. Flared end out. Okie dokie. Look at that lineup. And of course, we're going to have our first problem here, aren't we? Who put that there? Don't they know about the heat shield? Fiddle fart. I think in this particular case, extra hands would be nice. All right. Well, here we go. Another complication. Weird. Looks like we got to move that heat shield. Well, not using it anyhow. Time to go. They probably figured if you're modifying your vehicle with this exhaust that you've probably already got tires too large for a spare anyhow, so why not take the heat shield out? If anything, I probably decrease the weight and increase my fuel efficiency. That's what I'm looking for. Oh yeah, winning. Okay, so here's where we at. Just have everything just kind of loosely hanging out right now because we're going to have to cut some pipe, and we want to measure like 7 times before we cut any pipe. Um, we we don't want to cut the pipe too short. We want to be pretty exact, so we want to nail this. There's a chart in the instructions that says, depending on your wheelbase, you need to cut this real long pipe precisely to the length that it asks. So wheelbase 145 inches on this short box. I just double checked that by measuring center line to center line from front tire to back tire. So I'm fairly confident about that, but regardless, I just wanted to triple check. So I just kind of got everything hanging here, and it says I want 42.2 inches. I put a little mark on the pipe here, and remember we installed our flange up here earlier. So if I just kind of eyeball this, here I am back here, that seems fairly in line, Here we are up here. That seems fairly in line. And then flange to mark. I'm pretty confident that that's the spot we need to be. So now we'll do some cutting. All right, best option for this operation is to use a metal chop saw. I have one, but it's not here right now. So second best option would be using a miter box with a hacksaw so you can make a nice square cut. Again, I have one, but it's not here right now. So options are becoming limited, and I'm feeling lazy because I'm already behind schedule and have other things I'd like to accomplish today. So we are just going to cut it with an angle grinder and see how she turns out. So let's give that a whirl. Appears to be satisfactory. Not my best work, but such is life. It does say to clean up the burrs, and that certainly makes sense.
Just use a couple of files here. Get that squared away real quick. It will only cause us heartache.
I'm sure there's alternative tools that could or should be used in this situation, but I believe this to be satisfactory. All right, dry fit time. Might as well make sure we're where we need to be before we do anything silly like tighten all this stuff up. And again, this would probably be the part where multiple hands would be helpful, but I only got what I got. So if those are fully seated, and that's fully seated, that looks good. And this rig here looks like we're well secured into that flange. By golly, I think we got a functional pipe here. Tell you what. Cool. I like that. Sturdy, hung well, straight. Good gravy. Couldn't ask for a whole lot more, I don't think. Cool. And everything's loosely in place. Now we got to put the old Y pipe on here, which which is the first thing it wants us to torque down. We loosened up this hanger bolt so this rig could slide up in there. It seems like a thing. So we'll just slide this on. Get that really well seated, I think.
So, well, that looks just about as solid as you can get her. Looks pretty cool, I guess. I'll bolt that monkey down. Called for 135 foot-pounds of torque. Doesn't seem unreasonable. And that this bracket would ride underneath the suspension, so I believe we got this in the right orientation.
Nailed it. Hanger seems to be in a good spot. That looks tight. Now we'll move on to the next step. All right, everything's in place. Everything is hanging where I want it to be. So now our job is to just run around and tighten everything down to about 50 Newton meters, 36 foot-pounds-ish. So we'll just run around and work our way around this rig. Ooh, shiny. All right, everything is tightened down. I think proof is in the sound, so let's fire this rig up. Well, what did I learn? Learned that the old exhaust lasted about 4 years by MBRP. Touching this new Roush and installing it, I just feel like the metal is more substantial, so I'm hoping that it's going to last a little bit longer. The MBRP was loud, much louder than the stock exhaust, and it definitely droned on the interstate, especially if I was towing something, which I wasn't a big fan of. But of course, to overcome that, I got loud speakers, so you just turn up the radio to dull any noise that you don't like. Probably not great for your hearing, but I was hoping with this Roush system that maybe it would be on the same tone level or maybe even a little bit quieter, because as I advance in age, I really don't need my truck to be raging loud everywhere that I go. Unfortunately, after I've installed it, I've realized that the Roush system is excessively loud compared to the MBRP system. It is just a screamer. So I haven't taken it out on the road yet. I don't know how it'll perform there, but a cold start, wow, it growls at you. Super cool noise, love that. But we'll see if down the road it's loud and obnoxious, and might have to do something else. So on that terrible disappointment, it's all installed. We'll see how long she lasts. And yeah, if you liked what you saw or you have any questions or comments, shoot them my way. I'll try to answer them the best that I can. Thanks for watching. Share this with a friend, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.